There's a very powerful line I got from Dr. Chris Watkins' book, Biblical Critical Theory, which I'd like to share with you. That that is what is called the materialist, in the service of an end that transcends their individual interests and differences, and is what they call, the materialists. They only go for like regarding humans like animals who follow the instincts and interests, exchanging ephemeral opinions in an endless circulation of chatter and noise, he says. But for the materialist dialectic, forget that all these complicated terms. By contrast, it's in addition to bodies and languages, also truth that can gather together communities in the service of an end that transcends the individual interests and differences. It is these truths that lift human beings out of living merely for pleasure and make them dedicated to a cause greater than themselves. In the realm of politics, the idea of communism is Baudot's primary example of it. Forget the communism part of it. But I do want to share about, this is a very inspiration. This is really eschatology, which means end time in the Bible. That if we have the end time in our mind, so if you don't live for just the worldly pleasure, but how do we not just live for worldly pleasure? Because worldly pleasure is very, very attractive and drawing, appealing. Okay, so no one is exempt. Pastors and leaders and theologians, scholars alike, we are all in the same dump. All right, so, but what he writes is very interesting. This philosophy of if you're not just living for the material world, in our case, it'll be the spiritual world, that the ideas can gather that in the sense of an end that transcends our individual interests and differences. So I would say that if you know the end result of the eschatology, like in the book of Revelation, they will lift you up. They'll give you the paradise. They give you, Jesus will wipe away your tears, take away your pain, and you'll see your loved ones forever and ever. All these good things, if you have that so imprint in your soul, this essentially can, what they call it, transcend. That's a really good word. That can transcend your individual struggles now. Because that picture of what is coming, living for the future, is so vivid and so powerful that it can transcend and overpower your struggles now in this present world. I'm talking in particular those who are sick, for example, seeking for healing, and it just hasn't been working medically or whatever, and all this, just like the woman with the bleeding problem for 12 years in the Bible, Mark chapter 5, and 12 years bleeding, and now she touched Jesus. She was completely healed instantly, and then Jesus said, "Woman, go in peace." No, he said, "Woman, your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you. And go in peace." What a blessing, right? I'm just saying that. On the other hand, there's a lot of people in the Hebrews chapter 11, by faith, Abraham lived in the promises of God, yet he never saw the promised land. He never did. God promised a great nation, but he never saw the great land because he died. The great land was a few hundred years, I think, maybe 1,000 years after that. That actually, thousands of years possibly. Yeah, definitely, yeah. That Moses and then Joshua enter the promised land. Even Moses didn't enter the promised land. So the idea that the eschatology, you're so forward looking of what is promised by faith, will transcend your present struggles and lack of seeing the promises fulfilled by God. Is a powerful antidote for despair, for doubt, for struggle, for all these bad things. Your faith will, in other words, your faith of God's promises in the end, even though you don't see it, will carry you through. That's the message. To transcend, it transcends your problems. So that's why we must not you see here, it is these truths that lift human beings out of living merely for pleasure Because the truth of the eschatology of what is coming in the end lift me out of living just for pleasures. Lift you and us. Lift us out of merely living for our pleasures and making them dedicated to a cause greater than themselves. Therefore, we're living for a cause greater than what we see now. That's so powerful. So that is the message of living, the power of living for the end time promised by God, the eschatology. That's what we call, you don't want to live for the materialistic world only. What do you call the according to the democratic materialism, humans are animals that follow the instincts and interests, exchanges signals and all this stuff. You don't want to dehumanize. You don't want to reductionistically deal with humans. We have a great future, and that understand, realization, their hope, their faith in that transcend us and free us from living for today's pleasures only. Thank you. God bless you.